What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I just want to get on here and bring everybody back to now. Appreciate y'all being here and vibing with me for a bit. Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about catching patterns that happen in your life faster and faster, and realizing that the problem and the solution is one and the same thing. Partly, it's is breaking out of these unconscious patterns of thought. From the old man, the old way of being, the old kind of just unconscious, asleep, almost like a robot, yeah, or like a drone, that's just kind of just going through the motions of the matrix without really, understanding why they're doing it, or really questioning things. I mean, you can see it when you look out into creation for a time, and not to say that's always going to be like that. I feel like that's rapidly evolving because it's a mirror. It's like a mirror of what's going on within, and so breaking out of these cycles of habituated just it's just one thing after another. I mean, it's like basically what you don't want to happen keeps happening. It's like you keep wanting like whatever, and then like the act of wanting is unconsciously putting it away from you, and so then you start chasing these carrots, and just end up spending a whole bunch of energy and time grinding and sacrificing and being miserable with a little spice of like temporary happiness, like a little energetic charge, and then quickly followed by something that just snips that energy right up, and you're just kind of in that flow, continuously creating these patterns unconsciously, until you start to realize and take ownership of what's going on in your life, and realize that there's so much of this is mirroring the inner conversation, our thoughts, what we tell ourselves, these stories that aren't real, these make believe things, and some just limiting ideas and assumptions about who you are, what's possible. All things are possible, but it's just as you start to realize that you're not disconnected from what's going on. You're looking in a mirror, and it's not like the ego wants to have this like, through mental concentrated force, through effort, and I'm just going to improve my mind to this point where it's just like that just whatever happens, it falls into these patterns of like by my own effort I'm going to try to please God and be rewarded and be blessed by my effort and energy. Instead of just realizing that Jesus already did that. You don't got to keep doing the work. It's a process of realizing states of consciousness now. I just listened to a audio book by Neville Goddard, and I think it was called The Coin of Heaven. Let me pull it up. I'll put a link in the description, because the guy that read that book, he does a lot of like narration types of ebooks, a lot focused on a lot of Neville Goddard's books. It's Josiah Brandt, and so I'll put his link in the description, because he's got a real I'd say entertaining, or it's enjoyable to listen to it. But in that book is really talking about how you start to change your now, is to realize this kind of time delay, where the past doesn't just recede to the void, but is continuously coming to confront you in the present. And so like the thoughts that you had yesterday, the beliefs, your assumptions of separateness from others and from situations, and not taking responsibility for that being something going on also within you, you just keep confronting it over and over and over again. And when you're unconscious, you're not aware that that's happening, because it's always happening in the moment. It's like this imaginary future where that's not going to happen. And in that book, one of the quotes from Neville Goddard is like, what was it? The next life is this life. You just keep living the same pattern, where you're at. And I've heard that it's starting to become more and more, something I'm kind of vibing with, because just with all the life experiences I've had that kind of confirm that, reality being fluid and really functioning more vertically than linearly. It's in the present, quantumly in the moment. And realizing that more and more, so how in the now, so much of what we experience, and some of the big kind of stumbling blocks of maybe like the law of attraction, or like manifesting, is not being present. It's like, how would you feel if you were already in heaven? Because basically that's what was happening with you're trying to basically not live in hell. You're tired of like not having your whatever. You feel like all of these tormenting types of thoughts and everything, of feeling scarcity and unworthy and guilty and shameful, and just all this shit and this baggage from the ego self that we all made one, and not to sit there and like judge yourself, for these things, but to realize like now is when you make the choice to just do it differently. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to ask God to start inspiring better thoughts. If I got to keep in patterns, the things I was thinking yesterday now all of a sudden start to manifest today. Meanwhile, in the present moment, if you're kind of unconscious, or you start getting in the mind and starting to lose that observer role, where you start to get carried away, and then you start to spin out, and next thing you know, you did something, popped off at the mouth, or who knows. It's like we're all dealing with things. It's just catching that faster and faster and going, okay, well, I realize that this connectedness, I'm making a change. I'm going to choose to be happy. The biggest game changer for me is getting into more of a gratitude state of consciousness, because as you do that, you're almost just you don't have to do the work. Just be grateful for it. That God loves you right now. Just you're a masterpiece in God's eyes. Start believing these things. Jesus is in you. You're connected with everything. It's just that your maybe ego mind just doesn't believe that because of all the shit that's been going on in the outer world, and the suffering. Because that's all the ego likes to create, is separateness and fear, because of the separateness, when there is no separateness, where there's like a connection in creation, and we're all kind of in this process of awakening. That's really the only thing that's happening. It's like you can have these different things going on that you're moving around and doing and having fun, and it's supposed to be fun. This is joyful. It's like supposed to be basically like Eden. It's like the Garden of Eden, basically, where you're gardening the consciousness. It's like these inner things, and it's like you start to see what you seen yesterday. It could be going on again today, but your just perception of it is just elevated on some level. And it's like, especially when you start to realize that to drink from now, you give it to others, because then you give it to yourself, because you're seeing you out here in the Maya. And some people, there's like I can't remember if it's like a Buddhist saying or what it is, but it's like, how does it go? I'm not who you say I am, you are I'm not who you say I am, you are what you say I am. I think is how it goes. And so it's like, we're all mirroring these different aspects, but to start to vibe in more gratitude, start looking at, people that you're consciously aware of, because, it's connected almost like roots, like a vine. Think of like Jesus as being, the vine, but we're all part of the vine. It's like everything in your perception of reality is your garden. Basically, as you bless these things that you're seeing, or maybe you see somebody, instead of you like sitting there judging them, like, they're unconscious and they're just being whatever you're judging about it. Realize that a lot of that's going on with you, because it's part of your garden, it's part of your consciousness. And so through forgiveness, you're realizing that as you forgive, you forget yourself is also being forgiven, and you start almost like looking at it as, to drink of the water, you gotta water somebody else, and you drink out of that hose. you get some of that same stream, if you know what I mean. And so like really exploring that more, and you can do that instantly. You do that right now. it's part of like this identity. It's like part of like the I don't know, the mirror, or whatever creation. It is it's just, I don't know. It's like the more you start to understand it, the more you realize it's just showing you an identity. It's like you don't have to be in your mind about it. It's like, oh, you just looked in front of like a mirror in the bathroom and you're I don't made a weird face or something, and then you're like looking at it like, oh, I want to break the mirror. It's like, just change your identity. I mean, you just looked in the mirror. You maybe didn't see something you like. Revise that, as Neville Goddard would say. Use the pruning shears of revision. And bless it. Imagine it better. It's like if you see like a friend that all of a sudden is like, oh, like really hard up on life, or there's like a cycle of suffering, and it's just like, see them out of it. See them in a state of joy. And you start, pushing those states of consciousness towards others, because as you do, it's like you instantly feel that energy, and realizing more and more so, the things that you're doing. Those are, everybody's got different desires, but experiencing happiness now, that's the thing. It's like you have all these desires, and because so many of them you think that's going to make you happy. So it's like, just be happy. and it's like, you don't need the once you're happy, that's what brings those things. These different experiences, like, it's just a mirror showing you that state of consciousness. Like, put on the new man, get out of this old man victim mentality, get into the new identity, which you see in the mirror of creation through others. So it's like, you want to start looking out into reality, to consciousness, to all this, and start putting love into that, because it's also, loving yourself in this way. It's like because you're not suffering then in the present moment. You start elevating up in your consciousness. You start feeling good. You start feeling better, and that's a great way to kind of start changing directions, because as you start to just change that, just realize that you don't have to continuously keep repeating these Groundhog Days. If you keep walking into yesterday, so start planting new thoughts today, and ask God for those new thoughts, those new ideas, these new maybe philosophies, whatever inspiration that's within you. Just ask. Just ask, believe, receive. You're not alone, and so you don't got to figure out how to do this. Ultimately, it's like letting go and realizing God's doing it. It's like you're the clay. It's like just let it allow it. Basically, just feel happy now, feel blessed right now, because you are that. That's part of it. It's just you already. It's already who you are. But it's a lot of this identity stuff that we got to work on, and we work on that together. It was the awakened humanity, I guess you would say. But like with that being said, I like to wrap these things up with a quote unquote random Bible verse. Nothing's random. God's in control of literally everything. Let's see what God's got to say. Jeremiah 16:16. Behold, I will send for many fishers, saith the Lord, and they shall fish them. And after will I send for many hunters, and they shall hunt them from every mountain, from every hill, and out of the holes and of the rocks. Okay. And with that being said, I appreciate you guys liking, sharing, subscribing, all that kind of internet stuff, and like I appreciate your attention for this long, and I appreciate your support in the spiritual and in the physical. And with that being said, I think I'm gonna bounce. And so until the next now, hopefully everybody starts just vibing high and leveling up, and realizing that as you do that for yourself, we all vibe in that same flow. And so and Jesus is already kind of doing that anyway. So it's like expand, grow, and experience that now. These ever more realizations of what you already have exactly right now in this moment. You have everything. Nothing's impossible for you. basically you are already in heaven. It's just a state of consciousness that is experientially that you can experience right now, and I encourage you to test it for yourself, and to ask Jesus to show you how to do it. Ultimately, look at his. Look what all he did. He said everything he did that you could do, and that you're basically his friend. And so, friends want to keep each other from not suffering. And so, with that being said, thanks for listening, and have a good rest of your now, and God bless.